Hi everyone, welcome to our weekly Q&A session, and today it's my pleasure to welcome Coach Richard. So, how are you today,
I'm,
Richard?
I'm great today. How are you doing today, Veronica?
It's so good to say like you're great with such an enthusiasm. I always really glad to see you
Well,
because you are always so positive. So, really, you have really good vibes. So it's
well,
always
it's
a pleasure to work with you.
likewise for you. I had a great sleep last night. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, so I just got up,
All
a
right.
couple hours ago, and I'm feeling good. So,
Okay, that's
right.
perfect. Yeah, and myself, I'm also great. Like my kids started school recently, and yeah, so I really do hope to get more time to deep dive into the work to work on my projects. And just recently, my kid got sick, so I didn't really get any more chance to start. But hopefully, they stay healthy, and
Yeah.
I really could start to work on these things because I want to work on more on. Like creating a course in Slovakia for people who struggle with
Oh,
chronic insomnia, and or like to write more blogs, to write more Instagram posts. So I really want to get in touch with people and to spread the word that I have learned here with Daniel in the Sleep Coach School. And right, so I think we can start. And we have the first question. And we have the question from Joseph93. Any tips on achieving deeper sleep? I'm able to now fall back asleep, but I don't achieve any restoration. So you seemed pretty restored today, Richard, from
yeah.
last night. So yeah. So what are your thoughts, to Joseph?
So, well, thanks for the question, Joseph. And we don't measure sleep just by how many hours we sleep, because sleep can be of very different qualities. And when we sleep, but we don't feel like we have restorative sleep, very often this is what we call hypersleep, where it's kind of a mixture of hyperarousal and sleep, but it's not as deep sleep as you would like. And hyperarousal is always the cause of insomnia, whether it keeps you totally awake or whether it keeps you from going deep enough to
Mhm.
get the fully restorative sleep. So all of the things that we have on this channel that relate to hyperarousal and how to sleep better are really applicable here. um, so I know it's very frustrating. I certainly experienced that in the thick of my insomnia, when I would start to sleep more, but the teachings hadn't kind of caught up with me, and it hadn't kind of trickled down to actually improve the quality of my sleep. So anything that any way that you found that you can deal with hyperarousal is going to help the depth of your sleep. Also, befriending wakefulness is going to help. All the things we teach are going to help that.
Hmm, exactly. Um, Maybe what struck me in this question was that Joseph was asking for the tips for deeper sleep, and um, of course, we are here on the channel where people are placing question about chronic insomnia. But sometimes when we have people who are really new to the channel, they are really looking for these quick fixes, the
Mhm.
tips, how to trick the sleep. And this could be a little bit tricky because we don't really give any of such advice. We don't really give any tips how to sleep longer, how to sleep deeper, how to sleep, how to have a perfect sleep cycles, right? And so, and this is because sleep is a passive process and we can't really control it. So and the more we are trying to control sleep, the more we are trying to um, pursue to really get into this process, the more it can backfire, and eventually it can end up in insomnia. Because I recall one experience. We had one client, And she said, and this health coach advised her to sleep 8 hours every night.
Mhm.
Uh, the what seemed to be a problem, she slept only 7 hours. Like, oh my goodness! But she was completely fine on 7 hours. But there's this golden standard rule, like you have to sleep 8 hours, otherwise terrible things will happen. So she tried to um, micromanage her sleep. She started with the blackout curtains and ended up with sleeping pills. So, it's we need to be kind of like, I don't want to say careful, rather mindful what and why we are doing, why we want to do this or that, and what are our intentions. Because when the intention is to control sleep, then it's really likely that it will backfire. But if our intention is whatever we do with the sleep efforts, our intention is to just do things because we feel fine, because we enjoy them, it's absolutely okay. And actually, the other aspect of this question is um, something that we call emotional fatigue. And when we experience emotional fatigue, uh, this comes from worrying, this comes from ruminating, from thinking too much, from uh, from just trying to fix the problem with sleep. And when we experience this emotional fatigue, it's it feels much different as the typical physical fatigue, like the when we run half a marathon, when we just, I don't know, when we are just simply tired after a day at work. Uh, the physical fatigue is pretty straightforward. We have a cup of coffee, we take a shower, and we feel better. But with this emotional fatigue, it feels like uh, it feels like a heavy feeling from deep within. It feels like we are really uh, exhausted, but mentally, not only physically. And the way how to kind of like overcome this emotional fatigue. First one is the awareness. What emotional fatigue is, where does it come from, and the self kindness. So, the self kindness is really helpful and important on this journey because it helps us to overcome the biggest and deepest struggles. So, these are my thoughts on the unrefreshing sleep. And right, we don't have any questions right now yet. So we just have a really nice good morning from Charles Stanbridge. So good morning to you. And just right now came the first question from Angel at Mes Dimon. I'm sorry, probably I have mispronounced it. So, hi. When you feel like you're going to have one of those nights, thoughts start racing, anxiety kicks in. What do you suggest to stop the train? Distraction, accepting the bad night ahead, or nothing? So, what are your thoughts, Richard?
Yeah, well, thanks for the question, Angel. And you know, uh, the kind of key factor that causes insomnia is, as we said, hyperarousal, anxiety. So it's not uncommon when we have anxiety just to start having anticipatory anxiety. We're afraid, okay, I'm going to bed now, and this is like something I'm not good at. That's what we think when we have insomnia. And so we start worrying, we start getting anxiety. Now, one of the worst things we can do is try to push it away, because when we push away difficult feelings, we really just amplify them. We're kind of telling the brain that this is really dangerous. If we were being chased by a grizzly bear, we'd certainly want to run away or fight or push the bear away, and that just reinforces to our primitive brain that this really is dangerous. So the thing not to do is to push it away. But on the other hand, we don't want to we don't want to dwell on it, embrace it too much. So what I used to do is when I would wake up at night, whether I had trouble falling asleep or staying asleep afterward, is that I would kind of acknowledge how I felt and acknowledge it in kind of a non-reactive way, non-reactive acknowledgement. I find I didn't have the words for that then, I do now, but I kind of stumbled on that. And I found that acknowledging it, but not dwelling on it too much was really helpful. And then when I wouldn't say that the solution, Angel, is distraction, but but what I would do is kind of acknowledge how I'm feeling, kind of push it kind of to the side, but still acknowledge it. And then I would do something that I enjoyed. Usually, what I would enjoy, as I said many times in this channel, is getting up and watching Seinfeld, and that would kind of shift. That would enable me to befriend wakefulness so that it wasn't this terrible thing. Instead of, oh no, I'm awake, it's, oh well, I'm awake. Yeah, well, don't love it, but I can do something enjoyable. And at first, I didn't enjoy getting up and having to get up, but I felt too restless when I stayed in bed. So I would get up, I would watch Seinfeld, I would just kind of get into it, start laughing. And at first, I would say, okay, Seinfeld is 23 minutes. I'm going to hopefully be ready to go back to sleep at 23 minutes. Well, my whole approach was wrong because this is a sleep effort. Jerry and George and Lane and so forth, they were my sleep efforts. But then I discovered that, oh, well, maybe I won't sleep at all. And that was okay. After a while, when I learned these principles that we're teaching now, I realized, okay, it's okay if I don't go back to sleep. And then it was only then that I would start really enjoying the show, and I would kind of forget that it's 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I would start getting sleepy. So by befriending wakefulness, by being kind to myself, non-judgmental, by not pushing my feelings away, but not dwelling on them and and emphasizing them too much, that's what worked for me. And hopefully, this kind of approach would also work for you, Angel.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, Richard. I basically have exactly the same experience. Instead of watching Seinfeld, I watched The Big Bang Theory,
Oh yeah,
and
I love that one too. Yeah.
yeah, I felt like it didn't matter how tired I am, how upset I am, frustrated. They always say something funny that made me laugh. So, and this is wonderful because this is what is sending the signals back to our brain like, hey, being awake at night is not a threat. And I believe the kind of like a breaking moment for me was in the evening when I started to get worried about not sleeping tonight. I would just, yeah, whatever. If I don't sleep tonight, I still can watch my favorite show. So, yeah, this was really helpful way of befriending wakefulness and really enjoyable. Thank you for answering this question. And we have another one. We have a question from Debra Wild. Hi, can insomnia ever be cured? I tried everything. I lie awake most of the night. I befriend wakefulness, but still can't sleep. My doctor prescribed me Kivik, but that doesn't work for me. And the other questions, I read them all from Libra. What do you do to practice self kindness? And should you watch TV? And we just spoke about it. I read the light from the TV wakes you up. So, right. What are your thoughts, Richard? Uh,
Just to get to the last part of that, watching TV, there's this idea in kind of the more conventional approaches to insomnia that watching TV is bad because it's blue light. It's just light. Number one is blue light, and that's supposed to be stimulating. I think that's way, way over exaggerated. I think if you're watching TV because it's something you enjoy, I think the enjoyment is going to be far more important than maybe any 1% effect that the light may have on you. I avoided TV like the plague when I was trying to cure my insomnia. And then I found when I started uh, learning the things that we're teaching here, I realized that it's okay to watch TV. So I think that's fine. And then getting back to your first part of your question, Deborah. So can insomnia ever be cured? Well, we don't like to use the word cure because that implies that it's some kind of disease. And really, if we think of it as a disease, it's easy to think of ourselves as broken. Our brain is broken. We can't sleep. It's not broken. It's just a kind of overreacting. And the brain is just a little confused. We have this wonderful fight or flight mechanism, and it saves us from grizzly bears and threats we had 10,000 years ago. But then when we have something that feels threatening, like being awake, we have the same fight or flight reaction. So it's just the brain is a little confused. It's not broken. Anybody can learn to sleep with the learnings that we have here. And Deborah, I don't know how much um, you've followed our programs here, but when you say you've tried everything, obviously that would kind of require more of a conversation to know exactly what you've tried. You mentioned lying awake most of the night. Again, um, you say you try to befriend wakefulness. There that would involve a whole discussion, and there are many different ways of befriending wakefulness. Sometimes people like to stay in bed, and that's fine. I found that if I stayed in bed, I just got too antsy, too restless, too tossing and turning. So if it doesn't work for you to lie awake in bed, you might consider getting up. There's no right or wrong here, but just kind of be open to the possibilities. Your doctor prescribed a sleeping pill. It does not work. One of the things about sleeping pills is, yeah, typically they don't work long term. And if they work, sometimes they'll work at the beginning, but they won't work long term. When we take a sleeping pill, sometimes or very often what happens is we delegate to the sleeping pill. We say, oh, so this pill is going to make me sleep. I'm convinced of it. You take the pill, and what really happens, even if the pill is even just more of a placebo or too low a dose of a real sleeping pill to have any effect, it works by delegation. We delegate to the sleeping pill. We say, oh, the pill is making me sleep. So we actually give up our sleep efforts, and we give up our sleep efforts, hyperarousal goes down and we sleep. Now, this didn't happen with you. I don't know if the pill worked initially, but again, we're not pro pill or anti pill. So if your doctor prescribed it, it's okay to take. But uh, the approach we have is a more natural approach, generally helping you to your brain to be less confused about what's a threat and what's really not a threat. So it takes time. It's a process. It's always bumpy. And yeah, I guess that's all I have to say right now, Deborah.
Perfect. So thank you so much for sharing, Richard. And I would just add, like, um, when we are when we want to overcome insomnia, we have to admit ourselves that we might not sleep tonight. So it starts with acceptance. Of course, naturally, it would be too much to accept a whole night of not sleeping, but only like bit by bit, accepting the moment I'm not sleeping right now, and it's okay, and I'm safe. And then from these moments becomes minutes, hours, until when you have an all-nighter, you don't freak out about it, and you just go about your day. So another part of the question from Debra was, what to do? What do you do to practice self-kindness, or basically like how to practice self-kindness? Self-kindness could be basically anything from doing something that you enjoy, that you like, that you usually don't do, like going for a massage, having a cup of cappuccino with a piece of your favorite cake, going for a walk, calling an old friend you haven't spoken to for a year. To uh, when we take the deeper meaning of self kindness, is about acknowledging that we have whole range of emotions, and to allow them, to not push them away, to not um, to really be kind to our brain, and really like thank your brain for giving me this emotions because I know you are just doing this to save me, to make me to survive because you love me, right? And so uh, this is my take on the self kindness very shortly. And we have a thank you note from Debra. Thank you for the kind advice. This channel is a lifeline. So wonderful. So glad it resonates. And
I'll just add
yeah.
something about self-kindness. One of the things I found really helpful was to remember my son. My son is 28 now, but when he was a child, a baby, and
Mhm,
sometimes he couldn't sleep. He didn't have a big problem with it, but I just remembered how I felt and the love I would extend to him when he was a baby
mhm,
or a toddler. And that I found that made it easier for me to to give that same self kindness and love to myself when I couldn't sleep. So instead of being judgmental, I would say, "Oh, what if I were to give that same love to my child?" And kind of
mhm.
the child inside. I know this can kind of sound kind of woo woo, but I think this approach of thinking of the child inside us can be really powerful and really elicit this kind of love reaction that we felt for our own kids. If we don't have kids, just any child, and just thinking of how wonderful children are and how we want to support them.
Yeah, exactly. You put it really, really wonderfully. So thank you. Okay. We have now another question from Theresa. Hi, Theresa. What are some ways to get out of hyperarousal besides breathing through it? So this sounds pretty much like an effort. So what do you think, Richard?
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing wrong with, doing some breathing as a way to calm yourself, or just because you enjoy it, or if you tend to kind of hold your breath sometimes and forget to breathe, that's okay. But if you're doing it, you say, okay, I'm going to breathe, I'm going to breathe, I'm going to get rid of this anxiety, hyperarousal. That can be tricky. That can be counterproductive. So what I find is the best way to get to put hyperarousal in its place again, as I said before, to acknowledge it, this kind of non-reactive acknowledgement. Oh, I'm having hyperarousal, and oh well instead of oh no, and but not make it into a big effort to accept it, to put it kind of let it be without dwelling on it excessively for too
Mhm.
long a time. And again, if it's hyperarousal at night, and if you can find other things to do that you enjoy, sometimes it's fine just to stay in bed if you're relaxing, or if you want to get up, you can turn the lights on, keep them off. I would sometimes One thing I would do, and I've mentioned this before on the channel, is go outside. If it was, like nice weather, put my slippers on, bathrobe, go outside and look up at the stars, and just kind of think of, okay, hyperarousal is just this little thing, like two or three stars right here, and the rest of the sky is the rest of my life. So I wasn't denying my hyperarousal. I was acknowledging it, but putting it in its place and seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah, exactly. And what also helped me was to learn that hyperarousal is like an emotion. It has its beginning, its peak, and its ending.
Hmm.
So it doesn't stay like this forever. Because sometimes when we feel the hyperarousal, we freak out. We get scared, like, oh my goodness, we have a hyperarousal. And then we start to overthink it. Oh my goodness, how long am I going to have the hyperarousal? And then we kind of get stuck in this loop. So, really acknowledging, allowing, and knowing that this is only for now, this doesn't stay with me forever. It
Hmm.
will eventually fade, and it will fade the sooner as the sooner I accept it and allow it,
Hmm.
then the things will get really, really easier.
Hmm.
Okay, and now we have a question from Char Standridge. Hi, Char. I was married 32 years. My husband drowned while working in a boating accident. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry to hear this.
So sorry.
I was asleep when I got the call. Now I'm scared to sleep. I haven't slept right for 2 years. What can I do?
Mm.
This is a really difficult situation, Char, and I'm really, really sorry for experiencing such a traumatic event. And I totally can see how this can affect your sleep, because I believe now your sleep is linked to a traumatic experience, to something really terrible might happen if I fall asleep. And as I believe this is not really about fear of not sleeping, rather about processing this traumatic experience, you might want to work with a therapist who
Mhm.
may lead you through through this trauma. And processing this trauma, I believe, will allow you to sleep later on. So um, I'm afraid I'm not really an expert in trauma, but reaching out for a professional healthcare professional can help you in this situation. What do you think, Richard?
Yeah, again, sure. I just want to repeat what Veronica said. I'm so sorry for your loss, and it must have been very traumatic. So it's not surprising that you associate sleeping or being in bed with this very difficult experience, and so that's totally understandable. So, yeah, I would just say definitely, if you haven't already, get some professional psychotherapeutic help with this. And then, I think at some point you need to look at, well, the fact that you are safe now, that you're not in any danger, that you don't have any loved ones in danger in the middle of the night now. I mean, you did before, and um, just to realize if you're afraid to sleep or afraid of nighttime, that you can realize you are okay now. I know that's easier said than done when you had such a traumatic experience, but I think working with your therapist and then kind of uh, working with the principles that we discuss here, after doing some therapy, I think that would be the route to go.
Absolutely. You got a thank you note from Char. And yeah, so, right, I think we can wrap up here, Richard. So thank you very much for coming here today.
Okay.
And yeah, thank you everybody for joining, for listening and watching. And I will see you next time.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.